Hello and welcome to the Arcanna.AI platform overview, where we'll show how Arcanna can help your analysts make better and more consistent decisions, and how Arcanna can deliver those decisions to the analyst without interrupting their normal flow. Secondly, we'll show how Arcanna works and how the pipelines are set up. And third, we'll show what are the weekly recurrent actions that the SOC hero would have to perform in order to keep Arcanna's performance up to par. And so we'll jump a bit outside of Arcanna, firstly to a Splunk instance where we have nullable events. And normally an analyst would have to go through the event and figure out if they should investigate that event further or not. And the way Arcanna can help is by providing a decision to the analyst in the form of a change in urgency or status, or simply through an investigation note. Now, behind the scenes, in this case, Arcanna is connected to the Splunk instance. It reads the event from Splunk and delivers a decision on that event to the analyst. The second form of interaction, which is a more complete form, let's say, is through the use of a SOAR. Here we have Cortex XOR, but we have integrations with most SOAR vendors. The idea is the same in all of them. Basically, for a given incident, through the use of a playbook, you can actually pack that incident and send it to Arcanna. We provide an API that can be used from the playbooks. Once that event is sent, then the playbook gets Arcanna's decision on that given incident, and then the playbook would map based on Arcanna's decision, or would branch based on Arcanna's decision. In this case, if it's an escalate, we assign an analyst to the incident, and after the review, as a final step, we actually ask the analyst, was it a true positive, was it a false positive, and that feedback gets actually sent back to Arcanna, such that you complete the entire feedback loop without having the analyst change their flow or go to a different screen. So these are the two main forms of interaction between Arcanna and the analyst. The first one is more SIEM oriented, where the analyst just receives the decision, and the SOAR one, where you actually can complete the entire feedback loop without having the analysts move to a different screen. Now, let's go to the actual Arcanna UI to show how things work behind the scenes and how things can be set up. Let's just log in real quick. The UI is relatively simple. You have the integrations, which represent basically the credentials needed by Arcanna to connect to the different external systems you might have in your premise. We have integrations with databases, with SIEMs, such as Google Chronicle or QRadar. We also have threat intel enrichment integrations, such as VirusToll, Cisco Umbrella, or also Open Threat Intel enrichments that can be used on the incoming data in order to enrich specific IOCs. We also have post-decision automations such as ticketing in Notobo or the Hive, or even the Splunk investigation node counts as a post-decision integration. After the decision, Arcanna goes to the Splunk API and creates an investigation node on a specific event. So these are the integrations. And the AI jobs represent the flow of data, basically. I'll jump to an existing job, which, as an example, this job reads from an Elasticsearch index, the SIEM signals index, and after Arcanna provides a decision, it actually creates a ticket in the Hive. The ticket can be highly customizable with templating, and that's how Arcanna delivers that decision in this specific case. Now, once you have created a job, you start getting events into the Explorer. Here you can see all the events that come into the job. And I'll call them generically events because they can basically be any JSON-based document. So they can be events, they can be alerts, they can even be full incidents with underlying events underneath. So once you start getting some events in, which you can see in detail both in a table format or also in a raw JSON format, you get to the first step of the actual AI setup, which is in the feedback page in the feature selection. So here, the analyst, the SOC hero, the person that configures Arcanna for the first time, has to select the data points that they consider relevant when making a decision on a given data set, on a given event. So we do offer data samples such that the analyst gets an idea of what the data looks like, and also some metrics on the specific data points, the specific fields. And there's also a built-in ETL tool that allows the, let's say, the SOC hero to actually add more context to the data. We call them custom fields, but they basically allow you to, for example, map certain IPs to certain zones in your network, or for example, map a timestamp between working hours, outside working hours. So it allows you to give more context to your data on the fly before Arcanna will make a decision on that data, on that event. Once we have selected the features, the data points, we get to the feedback step. Now, during feedback, we actually get something we call buckets. So a bucket is just a collection of events that, based on the fields, the features you have just selected, the events in a bucket look very similar or almost identical. And so you don't give feedback on individual events, but you actually give feedback on a bucket of events, and that drastically improves the feedback process and time it takes. Now, you can always deep dive into a bucket and see exactly all the events that fall into those buckets. In this case, we have only one event. And in order to give feedback on a specific bucket, it's as simple as selecting the bucket that we want to give feedback on and giving the decision. Let's say this one's an escalate. Now, the buckets have states. So a new bucket is new to the model and it has no feedback from the users. We also have an analyze state, where a bucket has received feedback, but it's not yet incorporated into the model. In knowledge base means that it is incorporated, but we also have undecided. So behind the scenes, we actually have a consensus mechanism, which allows multiple analysts to give feedback on the same job, on the same buckets, and we do a majority vote. And only when a majority is reached do we actually use that feedback in training the model. When it comes to training, we can go to the feedback statistics page, where the SOC hero, the person that trains the model on a weekly basis, can come in and see the breakdown of all their buckets, the escalated ones, the dropped ones, the undecided ones, the new ones. They get the breakdown of the total accuracy and the performance metrics of the current feedback session. We only gave one feedback right now. And in order to train the model, it's as simple as clicking the retrain button, and behind the scenes, all the feedback gets gathered and the model is trained. And for all new events that flow into this job, Arcanna will provide the latest decision. You can always go back and change a previous decision you made, and the model will adjust after training. It is worth mentioning that the platform works on your premise or in your cloud environment, either on a VM or in a Kubernetes cluster. You don't have to send any data to us. The models are yours. They are trained locally in your premise. We don't come with pre-trained models, so the data, the models are yours. We can even function in a completely isolated environment. This was the general overview of the platform. Thank you for listening, and have a wonderful day.